Welcome to the JYM LYFE podcast. Welcome everybody again to the JYM LYFE podcast, our second episode together. Great, my family member, my brother, Dr. Jim Stoppani, business partner and founder and owner of JYM Supplement Science. What's going on, Jim?
How's it going, Mike?
Good. So, the last episode that we shot, I think went really well. We're just putting it out there right now. I think some of the people who've even been viewing it went up yesterday. It went really well. It's just us chatting like we used to, talking about the nature of how came together, started this great brand, some of the things we do. We got into some other topics.
Of course.
That I think were really some golden eggs, as I call them, because a lot of times people, when they just listen to you, it's important that they find those aha moments. And fortunately, I think, one of the first people to kind of do that and have that opportunity. And want to get us back talking again. So, and specific about some topics I think are really important. I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, well, it's always my pleasure to talk about science. So
exactly, and science based on the thing that you say about that, because we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. Science has its own application when people hang their hats on science, and the unique thing about you is you've always blended the science, but not just hang on the science. It's also
the application, right? The actual
you want to talk about that just real
quick?
Sure,
yeah. So that that a lot of times you find these experts, and typically I won't name any names, but typically they look like a scientist. They don't look like somebody who's spent any time in the gym, right? And the problem there is because they don't really have a strong gym background. Sure, maybe they lifted, maybe they competed once when they were in their teens, but if you're not going to the gym daily, or at least, most of the times out of a week, your rest days, but if you're still not going to the gym and trying to get an extra inch on your arms, then you can't tell anybody else
how to do it.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Because if you let me take that back. I would rather a old Mr. Olympia who once did it taught somebody than a scientist who doesn't train, because the scientist never did it. And when you look at the science that we do in the lab is not perfect, okay? Right. Typically, it's beginners, right? It's people who haven't really trained. And when I'm interested in research is what happens when you take a person who's like the gym army, who's been training for years and years, right, and now they do this or they do that, right? It's different. It's different based on your experience. Your recovery is different, right? Your recovery window, we know, is different. The more training you have, the shorter that window is, that anabolic window after your recovery window after. So the thing that, I like to remind people is if there's people just telling you, oh, look at this study did this, and no, that can't work in the gym because this study proved it didn't. Well, really, let's look at the study, because most people can't tear the studies apart, but I can, because I was a real research scientist.
But you're also practically
so I know what goes into, right? But I know what goes into a science study. And
can you explain it? Because you've explained that to me before, and I'll give you just an example that you gave me. So, so Dr. Tim Sheet, colleague of yours, part of the organization, he did something on creatine to where, now correct me if I'm wrong, he did something on a creatine study or something like that to where the person running the department says, oh, creatine doesn't work, but it was like by itself, or
so right? No, he was trying to, he just simply wanted to run a creatine study.
Right.
And the institutional review board. So each university has a board that reviews every research study that goes through to make sure that nobody's at risk, right? It's following proper, logistics, whatever, right? So they have a group, and usually there's a medical doctor, some other scientists, a statistician probably on there, right? Well, the MD at one of his universities said, no, creatine is dangerous.
Right.
And despite Tim showing study after study showing that it's not dangerous, the information he got by Googling
Right.
trumped the research, which is ridiculous.
So therefore, the study, but that you told me about sometimes when it comes down.
Well,
to
let's
some
talk
of the
about
science.
something like GACIC. Do you remember the supplement GACIC?
Yes.
Okay. This is probably 2010, maybe or so,
Right.
even before, maybe in 2005.
It was, yeah.
Show. Well, before GACIC came out, there was a study on GACIC, right? And it showed some pretty impressive results, the research study. But when people actually bought it and took it, it really did little. You know what I'm saying? So,
But what did the science say on it though?
that it was effective.
It was effective, right?
It was effective for muscle mass, strength gains, and I'm just quite impressive the gains that they were getting. However, in the real world, it just didn't pan out. And has anybody heard about GACIC lately?
Right.
No, because if it worked,
See, I remember when it was
worked
coming
as
out,
well
right.
as the research study claimed, right? As the research study claimed, then it would be selling, but it's not. And so you have to take, people think that research is up on this pedestal, but for researchers like me, I can look at a study and go, "Oh, really? Those were beginner subjects, or that wasn't even a workout."
You told me about
a workout.
HMB too. Same thing, right? Wasn't an HMB?
No, HMB is more work. It works for beginners.
Okay.
Right? Because you have to have a shot. It really is about preventing almost overtraining, if you will. Right?
Okay.
And so it works well for beginners, but then once you're no longer really stressed that much by the workout, it no longer provides a benefit unless you purposely overtrain or undereat.
Right.
But anyway.
And the reason why
the real point is that there's a lot of people out there who just read a study and go, see?
Right.
And then without any, looking at what bodybuilders are doing, what athletes are doing, say, no, this works or it doesn't work. And that's not the case.
And that's why I wanted to bring that up and start there, is because as we've talked about the last time you and I sat down, and many years over the course of all this time that we've worked together, has been how the information, especially for people who are seeking the information about, look, I'm a young kid. Maybe I'm, a guy who was an athlete in my 20s. Now I'm getting back in the gym, because ultimately that's our customer. It's the young people who want to get in shape, looking for solutions, or it's guys and girls, or people who've maybe, they were once athletes, they were once in shape, and then, they put their families together, focus on their careers, and now they have time to get back in shape, and now they're looking for solutions, looking for answers. And so you've always told me that that's essentially who our audience is. And so when we look at giving them solutions in the form of supplements and also workout programs, many people just hang their hat so much on, like, well, this is what science says and it applies to everybody, versus what is really, what are the goals of somebody who is just either getting started. It could be the same products of somebody who's a seasoned trainer too. And I think a lot of people turn to certain things that they just hear. And one of the things I wanted to talk with you about is that I've been hearing a lot of things about people in those two categories. The youngsters who are getting in shape, who are seeing a lot of this social media influence, these guys with massive muscles, they want to get there quick. There's so much confusion in the supplement industry, so they turn to like SARMs. Sure. And same thing, the people who are a little bit older, maybe they're getting back into it, they turn towards something. I'm not just saying SARMs in general, but products like that. It's like SARMs versus supplements, science versus science in real application. Where should somebody who is just getting started in those two categories, should they what's your take on SARMs, I guess? That would be my first question.
Well, let's break down what SARMs are for those who really don't know.
Okay.
So, SARMs, it stands for selective androgen receptor modulators. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, in a muscle cell and in other cells of the body as well, we have receptors, okay? And those receptors, and let's talk about the muscle, right?
Okay.
So if we're talking about the androgen receptors in the muscle, they bind testosterone. And when testosterone binds to that receptor, a conformational change happens, and that leads to an increase in muscle protein synthesis, basically, right, through gene signaling. So when you take testosterone, injectable or oral, what happens is it shuts down your own production because you have a negative feedback loop. So the higher your testosterone, your blood testosterone levels, goes back to the brain and says, whoa, We got to lower it down. It literally shuts off your own testosterone production, which is from your testicles, right? So you shut down your own production. With SARMs, you don't get that rise in testosterone because it's not testosterone, but it mimics what testosterone does at the receptor.
Got it.
See? So it attaches to the receptor and turns it on like testosterone.
So does it lower your own testosterone by taking it?
Well, in theory, but the truth of the matter is it does.
Got it.
And it depends on the SARMs. There's a ton of different SARMs out there. There's ostarine, I could go on and on. They all have different tissue specific for whether it's muscle, whether it's brain, whether it's the prostate, right? Because they can also decrease the activity of that receptor, okay? Depending on what you want to do for somebody with prostate cancer, say, right? You want to decrease it. So depending on the SARMs, right, it can have an anabolic effect or even a catabolic, sort of a anti.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Right? Okay, so you need to know that because when you're buying them, you're not buying them from a pharmacy who can ensure what you're getting, right? And as a matter of fact, a recent study looked at the SARMs that were being sold online.
Which were the predominant ones being sold? Do you know?
Well, regardless. But what they found was that only 40% of the products had what they claimed to be in them. 40%. Right. So what is your chance of getting an accurate product? It's less than 50%. So it's a gamble, right? Okay, it's a gamble, right? And many of those didn't have the actual accurate dosing that they claimed was in the bottle. 25% of them had other active ingredients, okay? And those are active ingredients. What they didn't test for was impurities. So they're also not testing for drugs that may kill you because think about, I want you to think about this. When you're buying something online from a person who is not going to be, who doesn't have to go through any quality control, is not going to be caught, they're under a veil, they move on. What if that person was a psychopath and wanted to kill people? And he hated bodybuilders. So he makes a SARM company and puts in an ingredient that over time will either kill you or harm you. Could happen, right? And then there's the fact of what is it contaminated? Where is this product being made? Is it being made in a real lab? Probably not. So most of them are oral, but there's also injectable ones now. And with the injectable ones, the problem is you could have impurities, you could get an infection, right? And then there's also could be toxic ingredients in the oral ones. So
it really comes down to the risk.
It's a crapshoot.
It's a risk reward. It's like, is it worth it?
Can they work? Yes, they can work, right? They can. Certain ones are effective, right? And you can go online and find which ones work better for muscle mass, which ones work better for dropping body fat, right? But when you're buying it, you have no idea what's in that bottle. You have no, unless you could take it to a lab and have it.
And even the ones that are effective, you're also saying that there's still some contraindications of usage.
It still can be lowering your testosterone levels. It still could have heart negative implications on heart health, just like steroids do. And again, in theory, they shouldn't because it's not the same molecule as a steroid. But because of what it's doing at the receptor, it makes sense that it probably has some properties.
Because I think a lot of people, even, back in the day when I was that young guy, I remember andro was the thing. It was
the pro hormones,
all the pro hormones.
So, but again, regardless of you could steroids work as well, right? But if you go online and buy steroids, good effing luck with what you're getting. Hope the worst case scenario is you're just getting a bottle of oil. You know what I'm saying? Well, however, you could be getting much worse. Well,
what I've heard from some people too, because there's some young kids in the local area who I talk to, some of the high schoolers and kids in college. Not so much high schoolers, but there are a couple seniors who I know, at the school, and they've brought this up. Well, SARMs are kind of like what andro was, and I'm like, no. You want to hit that real quick?
Right. Well. I mean, they perform the same action, right?
Yeah.
It's an anabolic, and they bind to the same receptor, right?
Okay.
The prohormone just gets converted into the actual hormone in the body, right? It needs a chemical step that it goes through that the body allows to happen. With the SARMs, it doesn't need to be converted at all. Same with testosterone itself. If you're getting a testosterone analog, it doesn't have to be converted. But regardless of what you're buying, if you're buying testosterone online, prohormones online, or SARMs online, the chance that you're getting something actual that you think you're buying is probably less than 50%.
Right.
So it's a crapshoot.
Right.
You have no idea what you're getting, right? Idea.
Because that was the other argument, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic when you said, hey, what do you want to talk about? And I said, namely this. It came up in the last week. A gentleman came in, and he's like, hey, because, he actually takes our products. He's on the programs, but, a little bit older. He's like, what does Jim think about SARMs? Because I'm considering it, and I heard it's a lot like, like what some of the pro hormones were back in the day. And I said, well, it's actually a great topic to maybe bring up and talk with him about.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I am not that knowledgeable on SARMs because, like I said, obviously I'm knowledgeable on how they work and what they do,
right.
But I'm not knowledgeable in how to use them, right? Because again, even if you had the perfect SARMs protocol to follow, unless you're a doctor or a scientist who can literally get legitimate SARMs from a legitimate lab, and likely you're not going to,
right,
online, you don't know what you're getting. So what's the point? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You don't know. You could be following the supposed protocol, but if that SARMs doesn't have that type of SARM in it, it's got a different one, or it doesn't have that amount, or it doesn't have anything in it.
Right.
It's useless. The protocol is useless. So that's why I don't waste time with.
So what would be your
SARMs protocols? We have plenty of dietary supplements that we can get pure. We can get the dose proper on. That is what I play with. That's where that's the science that I do. You know what the ingredient is, you know what it does, you know the dose, you know whether it has impurities or not, right? That is what I want to put in my body. And that's what I want to build protocols on, not on this might have 100% of what they claim in it.
So can we talk about that real quick? Because, specifically that, so that covers if anybody's watching or listening, I hope you can kind of understand what the risk reward benefit of SARMs is. Jim just outlined,
and the other thing is, why are you lifting weights and working out? Why? Is it literally just to get bigger? That's it? Is that the only thing you're interested in? You have no interest in your health and your future health, because these are huge risk factors for your health. So if you have any interest in your health, why go down that road? And then the other thing that I try to remind people of is, like, for myself, right? I have to be on camera year round, year after year. I'm 54. I'm getting older every year, right?
Yeah, it's not easy.
Why would you take something that's going to make you look good and big for a very short period of time?
Right.
But you can't maintain that, right? It's impossible to maintain. Because you can't take those drugs forever without serious health consequences. So you have to come off at some time.
Right.
So what is the benefit of looking good, unless you're a competitive bodybuilder, unless you're competing, okay, and you have to, right? You have to use these compounds, whether it's SARMs, whether it's anabolic steroids. Why? Why bring yourself up to that size when you're never going to maintain it? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, build something that's maintainable.
Well, and that's a great point, because when you look at all these high level competitive bodybuilders, even like the women and the figure and the fitness, they don't look like that year round. And us sitting here, I've known you for 20 years now. And the first 6 years, I didn't even know that you had a tattoo, let alone, had all the muscularity, because just the type of person you were. Jim, just so you guys know, so Jim used to come to the office with like a collared shirt, long sleeves, slacks or jeans, and nobody even knew he had a tattoo. for years. It was quite hilarious when I saw him for the first time looking like this.
Or any muscle mass.
Well, I mean, you could tell he worked out, but you didn't know. I mean, you can cover up a lot when you wear, like the corporate attire, which Jim did just because it wasn't about that. But we're not going to make the episode about that. But you've literally looked this way for as long as I've known you, 365 days a year.
Correct.
And, it's not a cycling up.
Right. And that's the thing is people,
right.
Some people claim I use steroids, right? And
I
it's
know.
like,
I hate that.
I've
known him for 20 years. He's literally looked this way for 20 years, guys.
Have you seen my weight go up 20 pounds and then drop and then up? And now,
where do you sit right now?
Has my weight dropped? Yeah, but I'm 54 and natural. So you cannot maintain muscle mass the same way at 54 as you can at 24.
You're usually 220, right?
I'm usually around 220.
Around 220.
I'm probably now like 210-ish.
Yeah, yeah. You've gotten down a little bit when you were leaning out for a couple things, but
yeah. And then the other thing is I maintain 4 to 5% body fat year round.
Right.
54.
So
without a drug or a SARM cycle.
Right. And that's my point is that it is.
And again, that's what I'm trying to show people.
It is possible.
What's maintainable. And that's why every day I'm online showing that,
you can do it.
Right. The physique stays the same. Again, I'm aging. So clearly I can't be at my peak any longer, right? You're literally watching me degenerate before your eyes, but the challenge for me now is more about maintenance than building. And I'm still working on, bringing up triceps or bringing up, you know what I'm saying? I'm still working on bringing those. Am I going to get 22-inch biceps? No, right? No, that'll never happen. But would I maybe bring up more of the triceps lateral head? Those are the sorts of things that I'm working. And like I said, this is what's attainable without a drug cycle, without the SARMs.
Well, and people have asked about that, even some of our own products, because we have alternatives, which you've always said and we've always stated, nutrients versus something either synthetic or a stimulant. And when it comes down, I mean, stimulants are fine. It's just knowing what you're taking. And I think that's important because many people just assume what they are taking because they heard the grapevine, their buddy's friend of their cousin's sister's husband or whatever told them it was good. And they don't really understand that what they're taking needs to be rooted in something that is a nutrient. And if they want that stimulant, fine. Just understand what that purpose is for. Taking stimulants for a pre-workout isn't going to do anything to increase strength, energy, endurance, or build muscle.
Right. These are chemicals versus nutrients.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that gets back to the SARMs and steroids and the prohormones. Those, again, are chemicals, not nutrients, right? And so what are you putting in your body? Are you putting in chemicals or are you putting in nutrients? Because the nutrients are going to provide benefit to your muscle mass, your strength, and your health. Whereas the chemicals will enhance your muscle mass and your fat loss, but they're decreasing your health. They're lowering your health.
So what are some of those nutrients? And, we can pull out some of the examples, obviously, because, this is the conversations we would have before we had the products. Jim, what are SARMs? Jim's, what are steroids? What I mean, back then it was like, Jim, what's a pro hormone? I remember I was getting 1AD going up to your office.
And we were at Muscle and Fitness.
And I was like, hey, what do you think of 1AD?
In the magazine or the online.
Yeah, but you would tell me, you're like, well, it's a pro hormone. And I'm like, well, should I take it? And you're like, dude, you're 23 years old.
Right.
Take some Trib or something, you don't need to take that. But you didn't have the tools that we now have based on what you would recommend. And so what are some nutrients? If a young guy or a girl, whomever the category fits, wants to step into the gym and they're like, I just want to get gains. I just want to get gains. What would you recommend for them to take along with the actual program? Because we'll get into that too. But what would be your prescription from a nutrient standpoint for those people to consume?
Well, obviously the first thing is to make sure that your diet is in order. Like you can't supplement, a bad, you can't out supplement a bad diet. Right. So the first thing that needs to happen is their macros have to be in order. They have to make sure they're eating enough or not too much, right? Depending on what their goal is. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that the nutrients that they're getting daily from their whole foods is adequate, right?
Right.
Whether that's a gram or a gram and a half of protein per pound of body weight, half their body weight in grams of fat, right? Mm-hmm. And then we could talk about the dieting 101, as you can see right here.
Because this is an example.
Really teaches you how to do that
right.
yourself.
Because I think a lot of times when people are looking for those solutions, it's good to sit here and have this conversation, say, oh, get your macros in check. People don't even know how to do that.
Exactly.
So what you've done and what we've done here is literally give them the how-to guide.
How to.
And even in here, the nice thing.
And it's so simple today because with your phone,
right,
all you need is to record what you're eating. You can use the MyFitnessPal app, right? And that'll give you a breakdown to find where you are currently. Because that's the other thing with dieting, if you look at any of my programs that I used to do, like Shortcut to Shred, right? It comes with a diet program, right? And the diet program is, again, it's relative to your body weight, right? How many calories you're eating is relative to body weight. How many grams of protein is all relative to body weight. But when you're talking about things like carbohydrate intake, that depends on where you are currently, right? Mm-hmm. If you're eating 30 grams of carbs, right, and you follow my Shortcut to Shred diet, the first week is, you're already eating more carbs, you're actually going to gain fat, right? You may gain fat, right? Mm-hmm. It may help to boost your metabolism, but some people may actually find that they're gaining fat because they're eating too few carbs to jump to a high carb. So we have to assess where the person is to get a better outcome. Now, again, those are programs that are for the masses, right? Millions of people literally have done Shortcut to Shred, Shortcut to Size. So that diet works for the majority of people following the program, right? Millions of people have gotten results, amazing results with that. But if you really want to hone it down for yourself, it's learning where you are currently. How many calories are you eating right now? And that's so easy to do by just you don't have to go get your metabolism measured. All you have to do is take a dietary, record what you're eating, right? What you're eating in a day. And unless you're gaining weight currently or losing weight, what you're eating in a day is the number of calories your body's basically burning.
So if you're starting back, or even if you are training and you're not effectively taking supplements, eating right, but you're on a program, your suggestion is, and I'll kind of spell it out, is like, first of all, start here with the dieting 101. I mean, exactly. This is a tool. This is no different than saying, hey, I need
if you're not eating enough protein, there's no supplement other than a protein powder, which is going to add protein to your diet, but there's no, if you're not eating enough protein, creatine's not going to help you, beta-alanine is not going to help you gain more muscle, because the missing link is you're not eating enough protein.
And what has been your specific goal? So, I'm 230. How many grams of protein should I be eating? Because you have kind of a rule about this, right?
Yeah, well, a minimum of your body weight. So 230 grams minimum. Minimum, if you're interested in muscle mass.
Am I going to get all that from food?
You could.
Right.
You could. It's not, it's, I'm kind of dumbfounded that people think that's a lot. As a matter of fact, Milos just put one of his diets from his, one of his shows recently up, and he was eating 500 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
Over 500 grams of protein daily.
It's a lot.
And when I tell people that they need to eat 200 grams, they're like, what? How am I going to eat that much protein?
Right.
And again, to someone like me or you, I love steak or chicken breast, right? It's pretty easy, to get that much protein. But if not, protein powders are an easy answer. And arguably, protein powders are a better choice around workouts.
Why?
Because of the digestibility, right? What happens when you eat a steak?
You're full.
To that protein, right? It sits in your stomach.
Right.
How long do you think those amino acids take to get to your
muscles? Break down, yeah. So the bioavailability of the powder's a lot, it's quicker in a sense.
Exactly, right? Which is why whey was so popular, right? Everybody thought whey is the only thing to take. Whey because it's so fast. Yes, you need whey because it gets there quickly, but whey is almost too quick, right? It shows up and then it's gone, right? So if you have a slower protein on top of the whey.
Combined.
Yeah,
right.
Which is why we have casein,
right?
The milk protein, right, which is a slow protein. You get this spike, quick spike. It gets to the muscle immediately that recovery process starts taking place, but then it continues because now you have those other slower proteins being broken down and those amino acids.
We used to have a diagram on the bottle. I'm not sure if we do anymore, but on the label we showed that. But what Jim's talking about is, most protein powders, and this is the other thing, Michael Norwood, who is one of our gym athletes, he's in town this week, and he and I were talking about specifically protein, and he says, a lot of my, people who come up to me and give me, questions and things like that, I'm telling them take protein. He goes, but they can't take it because, they get stomach problems and all that. And I'm like, yeah, why? Well, why? Why is proteins? Why are some proteins? But more specifically, okay, they have lactose. Yeah. They buy protein powder. What should they be looking for, in your opinion, right. Because most beginners, as well as people who just get back in the gym, they're, I need to get SARMs, but I definitely need to get a protein powder.
Yeah. So let's talk about whey protein, right? The ProGym is a blend, right? This is a blend of whey and casein, right?
Different types of protein.
Right.
Okay.
Which is ideal, like I said, for muscle building, right? Particularly around workouts. You've got that spike that goes to the muscle quickly, turns on those processes, right? You get muscle protein synthesis.
And that comes from which protein?
From whey. Gets there quick, right?
Got it, okay.
But then we have the casein in here providing the slow.
So the isolate spikes up real quick, getting into the muscles.
Right to the muscle, right?
For that insulin spike.
Getting the... more so about getting those aminos.
Okay, and then
muscle, right?
And then what happens from there?
And then you have the slower protein, the casein, slowly being broken down, so that now, as that whey is sort of falling out of the blood stream because it's so quick, now we're having the casein amino acids appear and get to the muscle. So it's the best of both worlds. You have the fast and the slow. But let's just talk about when you're buying a protein, and let's simplify it. Let's just say it's whey protein, just for simplistic, okay? So we have IsoGym, for example, which is my clear whey protein isolate, okay? So let's talk about that word isolate versus concentrate.
Yeah,
okay?
What is the difference?
And so I only use whey protein isolate. Why? Why is that versus a whey protein concentrate? And that's the problem with why most people have stomach issues, is most protein powders use whey protein concentrate.
And what's the difference?
And it's all about the processing. Do we have an IsoGym here? Yeah. So here's IsoGym, clear whey protein, 100% whey protein isolate. Okay. The difference is how much protein you end up with. Okay.
Okay.
With a concentrate.
Well, it says 20 grams here. What do you mean?
With a concentrate, you could end up with a protein powder that's 50% protein.
Okay.
Okay. So only half of it is protein. The other half is
so with
carbs.
So with the concentrate, if it says 20 grams of whey protein concentrate.
Sure. Oh yeah. You're getting 20 grams of protein, right?
But
depending on the percentage, if it was 50%, you would also be getting almost an equivalent amount of carbs. And what are the carbs from milk? Lactose. What percentage of the population has issues with lactose?
Like 80%.
Close, right? Very, right? Most of us have, when I buy milk, I buy lactose-free milk, right?
So
most of us have. So if you're buying a protein and it has whey protein concentrate and you're getting stomach issues, you don't have a problem with protein.
How do you know?
You have a problem with lactose because the concentrate is not filtering out enough of the lactose.
Got it.
Whereas an isolate gets almost all the lactose.
So you want isolates versus concentrates.
If you don't want stomach issues.
Okay. So now how do people know where to look for an isolate versus a concentrate? Because let's say on the front of the label, it'll say like whey protein, 100%.
Right.
Sounds great.
And, like on ours.
This is where you gave me this aha moment, by the way.
Clear isolate, right? I put it right on the front. But
most don't do that, though, Jim.
Well, only if they're selling isolates, right? If they're not selling isolate,
it'll say like 100%.
It'll just say whey protein, right?
Yeah,
Instead of the isolate, it would say JYM whey protein, right? It wouldn't have isolate or any of this, right?
Right.
To find out what kind of whey protein, you got to turn it around, go to the ingredients.
Underneath the supplement facts panel.
Right there, it'll say whey protein isolate, right? And you can see that's the only source. Now, a lot of times you'll see whey protein isolate, but it comes after the whey protein concentrate. They use both, right? Now, some people call that a protein blend.
No, it's not.
It's not, okay? It's still just whey, okay? It's a cheaper whey and a more expensive whey, right? It's not
Pun
a blend.
intended, right?
The blend refers to the different forms of protein. Right?
Or digestible type.
Exactly.
Right.
But they're different forms. They're
they're different forms. What do you mean different?
Casein,
Okay.
even though they both come from milk, are different types of protein.
Got
right?
it.
Whey is a soluble protein. Casein is a globular protein. They act completely different. Same with egg, which is why we have egg in here. They also provide different amino acid profiles. Okay, so that is a true blend. But again, getting back to the concentrate versus the isolate, so many people who have used either IsoGym or ProGym, because ProGym uses for the whey protein isolate, and again, there's no lactose, almost purely lactose free in here. If there's any, it's minuscule amounts.
Right.
Even the most sensitive.
And we've seen that in a lot of people saying, I can't
issues.
take it because of this, but then they try it and they're like, wow, I can, I'm perfectly
so
fine.
many people are amazed that they can finally take protein powder with, again, it just gets down to getting out the isolate. I mean, getting out the lactose, right? Using the isolate, which removes the lactose.
Got it. So with what you're saying is that, somebody who's going back to those categories, somebody who's just starting out or coming back.
And can I just say,
yeah, of course.
Why wouldn't you use a whey protein isolate in the case? If it's going to cause less stomach issues, you're going to end up with more protein in the bottle. Why wouldn't most companies do that?
Well, it's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
It's
right?
30. I will say this because, and I know this because I look at these numbers, guys. And again, I am trying to represent you, the consumers, when you and I talk, as I've always done. I know a lot of this and so a lot of people are like, oh, he's pandering. And if you're, yeah, for you guys, because these are the conversations that Jim and I would have. And it's my responsibility to try and act as that consumer because you have all that information. And so it's not like, well, aren't you business partners with Jim? Shouldn't you know this? Yeah, guys, I do. But I'm trying to pull these questions out because you have them. I've seen people have these questions. So when Jim's talking about the proteins and all these different things and all that, but to get to your point about the cost, yes, whey protein concentrate. And I'm not saying that it's like, oh, you did it. We won't use it for all the reasons, but also it is about 30 to 40. And now it's even gone up higher.
Sure. Cheaper.
It would make financial sense if Jim and I didn't care about the products, his reputation, your results, the consumers.
And my result. I mean, at the end of the day,
you take
I put 100% isolate in here because I'm taking why would I screw myself?
It's true.
And sadly, most other supplement brands don't have a Jim Stoppani who actually uses their products with knowledge. With knowledge, right?
Well, I always think about that.
No one at these other companies uses the products.
Yeah,
they don't know.
But I'll be honest with you. This is the benefit why I always say I have a great job. I have a great job. And the reason why is because let's say I didn't have you.
It's not as good as my job.
Well, yeah. You and I can argue about that. Job. We have a really good situation. But the situation that is our situation is that most of the supplement brands and their ownership are guys like me. And I'm even on the edge of
You're much more knowledgeable than most other
owners.
Owners,
right?
Presidents, managers, whatever level, CEOs.
Yes, but I would never take that position as a bro scientist to try and explain this. Number one, because I didn't know it when
or make a decision on what should be in the bottle.
Right.
That wouldn't be your decision.
No, absolutely not. Because
in 99% of the cases at other brands, you're the guy deciding what goes in these bottles. Can you imagine that?
Well,
can you imagine if you had to decide?
I would put whey protein concentrate in there if I didn't have that from Jim, because looking at it, guys,
from a business perspective,
you would be the right one.
This is the cheaper, right?
It's 30 to 40% cheaper.
You can still get 20 grams of protein per scoop.
We'd still sell the same number of units. It
just has more carbs. It has,
And it's actually easier to flavor, to be honest with you.
Right. There's Lactose is sweet. It's sugar, right?
So getting off that in a little bit, but getting it back to when we talked about the SARMs, because
Right.
I'm trying to look at saying,
if we're talking about the SARMs and testosterone, let's talk about nutrients. Literally,
versus synthetics.
So, and again, not to plug Alpha Gym here, but what few people don't realize about Alpha Gym is A, how effective it is, and B, how it doesn't mess up that negative feedback loop.
So is that that's a test booster, but a lot of people think that like taking a test booster is
it's
adding
going to
to
lower your own testosterone.
So what does that
Which
do?
is most cases. Most
Okay.
testosterone boosters do just that.
Why?
They lower your own because, like I said, it could be from yam, right, or other plants
Really?
that have chemical structures that mimic testosterone.
Okay.
Right?
All
So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
To be honest
so-
with you, I had no idea.
yeah. So right. So you're getting a compound in there that mimics testosterone in the body, right? You get more anabolic. It attaches to those androgen receptors in the muscle we talked about, right? Turns them on. But unlike the SARMs are supposed to do, right? The SARMs aren't supposed to be recognized in the blood as testosterone. These compounds in most tests, not Alpha Gym, in most test boosters do just that. In the bloodstream, it's recognized as testosterone. That shuts down your own system. Here's the ingredients in Alpha Gym, okay? And again, I will challenge anybody, any supplement, to have better results than Alpha Gym. These are products that my dad is 78. Do you know what his testosterone levels are?
No.
Around 700 to 800. From Alpha Gym, okay?
No,
Do you know how many gym army people we have that are in that age group, 60, 70, and their doctor says, yeah, you're low on testosterone, 300. They go on Alpha Gym, they're up to 700, 600, 700. Doctor says, you don't need hormone replacement.
Right.
Keep taking what you're taking. My God, what is that, right? How does it do that? Let me read the ingredients. Okay? Fenugreek, Damiana leaf, ashwagandha root, diindolylmethane, DIM, Uricoma longifolia, quercetin. Okay? What do these do? They literally protect the cells in your testicles that make testosterone, okay? And they prevent them from oxidative damage. Each of these ingredients have all been shown individually to help raise testosterone levels.
Naturally,
free testosterone.
though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, like I said, there's no negative feedback loop because none of these appear as testosterone in the blood. All they are basically providing a strong antioxidant benefit to specifically, it's almost like SARMs for your testicles, if you will, right? Whereas SARMs attach only to the, right? These literally go to your Leydig cells that produce testosterone in the testicles.
So you got to cycle it though, right?
Them. Not at all. This is something that you can take just like any gym product year round because it's not lowering your own, it's increasing your own. That's how it's doing it. Most testosterone boosters, like I said, have an exogenous source, not testosterone,
Adding
but something
to.
that looks like
Mimics it.
testosterone, right? That's
So your body stops producing its own natural testosterone.
Right.
Which is the
Okay.
reason why you have to cycle so your body can start
With
producing its own
this,
again.
It's not shutting your system down, your own. It's increasing
Enhancing it.
It's enhancing it, okay? Remarkably.
So what happens if you stop taking that though?
You just go back down to your, if you're a 300, you go
So
back down to
it's
300.
not going to screw up your hormone
No,
levels.
of course not.
Okay. Because that's one of the things too. So this by far, and look, I know it sounds self-serving and we talk about this too. And I think that was the hardest thing for you is to create and start a brand where people are like, of course he's going to do his own brand. But like, I really want to say this is by far, I'll be honest with you, this has been my most favorite out of all of our products.
Of course, yeah.
All of our
Like
products.
most guys
If you
feel
take
the
this,
same way.
but after I'll be honest with you, it takes about 2 weeks. I mean, Molinar's sitting over here. I mean, you take Alpha Gym, right? It was about 2 weeks when you start taking it. You start like, what are some of the noticeable things? Because I'll tell you what I noticed, but what
Sex
should
drive,
you? Okay, so waking up in the morning, I can attest to this.
increased sex drive.
Yeah,
right?
waking up in the morning. I will say this: I got 3 kids. They run. They jump up. They jump in my bed every single morning. sometimes I don't want them to jump in my bed every single morning. If you get my drift, literally get my drift. But this one product, I have noticed my mood when sometimes I screw up and like I'll run out at the house and I'll forget. By the time I get to the office, I forget. So it might be like
few days,
a week. I notice what I notice the most about that product is not so much when I'm taking it consistently, other than this.
But when you don't.
When I don't.
Yes.
When I don't. Freaking, I'm a little bit of a different person in the sense of like I don't feel as good at
it's really optimizing your hormone levels. Right. And it's not just testosterone. It's about the estrogen. It's about DHT. It's reducing the amount of estrogen conversion into DHT, so you're getting the maximal anabolic benefit from the testosterone.
Right. So now a combination of all those ingredients, I mean, what if other products had just a few of those? Would it still be effective? Or, I mean, what's your take on that? Or is this like the perfect formula?
Obviously, if I formulate it this way, I formulate it as...
Fair enough.
I mean, we've talked about how I formulated, pre-X, right? It's really about years of working with athletes, trying different ingredients, different combinations, right? Different doses of those combinations, right? And then sort of nailing this,
Because I remember there was a couple different things. To get back to your point, I remember when you were formulating this, and we were trying the different things, and it came back... one of the ingredients, I think it was D-aspartic acid. You're like, I don't know, because it causes stomach pain. Right. And I remember, but
so a lot of people get stomach issues from.
But see, that's the thing. Brands don't really consider things like that.
No, exactly. But again, I'm making these products for myself.
Selfishly.
So again, it's a little selfish, right? I mean, the quality that goes into this is a little selfish because I'm making it for myself, right? But you guys get the, like I said, luckily most brands don't have a Jim Stoppani fighting for the quality of the ingredients for themselves, right?
But who can actually understand and it goes back to that original point about science and practical application. The nice thing that I've always admired about, this brand, what we've done, and you specifically, is that a guy like me can just go to a manufacturer or, figure out some of the science and say,
yes, there's a ton of white label supplement manufacturers. Now you can post on Instagram. Hey, we'll make your supplement line for you.
Right.
Joe Blow. You want to make you want to make protein powder? We'll make it and bottle it for you and you can sell it, So everybody is jumping on the bandwagon, and a lot of experts are following in the footsteps that I did, thinking it's easy. It's not. I had no intention of ever owning a supplement brand when I was at Muscle and Fitness, because it's the business side. The business side of it, as good as these products are, they don't just sell. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of, there's a lot that goes into making a successful brand. And so I never wanted to sell supplements because I'm interested in the science. I'm not interested in the business side of it, which is what's nice with this relationship is you cover that.
I try to,
for me. And so we both have our sort of,
strengths in those areas. Right.
And so it allows it to happen, but it's not like, again, people see this as an overnight success, right? I mean, we launched this in 2013, and it was the #1 brand at bodybuilding.com
in under a year.
In a year, the #1 brand, and everybody was like, "Wow, that's an overnight success." But you don't understand the years that like the formulation happened before.
Right.
This, you know what I'm saying? All the pre-gym, that was a formula that I was writing in the magazine.
Right, and a lot of people, and that goes back to the point about the science, the practical application, the use case for these ingredients, and then having the tools. And it's years and years when people would say, well, of course, what's Jim going to come out with next? If you really want to get an insight into that, I would say pick up and start reading Muscle and Fitness when you talk about like the supplement review. I mentioned the last time we talked, I have when everybody comes into the office, it's really cool because I framed, and you've seen, remember the ones we had, like where your old articles where we would merchandise with what you were talking about. You were talking about these ingredients, but ingredients that are actual nutrients. And that comes back to the people who are looking for a start. What would you recommend for people who are saying, you know what, okay, Jim, you're the brand that I want to start with. Where do I start?
Right. Well, like I said, we started with Dieting 101.
Right.
Get your nutrition. First thing. You cannot get results if you're not eating properly, right? If you're
and
not
getting enough protein,
right? The right amount of fat, right, is critical, right? We know fat's critical now. And the right amount of carbs for your goal, whether it's fat loss, muscle gain, endurance, right? You really want to start there. And like I said, like you said, actually, Dieting 101 is the perfect.
And this is free, you guys. I mean, this is 100% free.
100%
You can just Google Jim Stoppani, Dieting 101. You'll find it. It's that simple.
Right. But then I would say step 2 would be get a good protein powder for around workouts, right?
Okay.
Because the whole food, again, whole food will be fine. Okay. If that's what you have, whole food, go for milk or dairy, usually, right? Because then you're getting some whey, you're getting some casein. But again, if you're telling me that you can't afford a whey or a protein powder and you're drinking milk, it's actually more expensive to get milk. The same amount of protein
from
milk, let alone it's going to mess up your macros because now you've got all the carbs.
You got to drink a hell of a lot more.
You've got, right. So your macros may be off. But like I said, really analyze your pocketbook or your wallet and think about it, because like I said, one of the most important supplements that you can use is a protein powder for A, like you said, getting protein high enough, but B, the digestibility around workouts. But plus, like you said, eating that much protein, to me, it doesn't seem like a lot, 200 grams, but somewhere up to 300 grams, right? But for a lot of people, that's a lot of protein to chew.
Is this true? I got a question about that. So applying the protein into your diet, because I've been on calls with you where you've talked with, actually, Griffin Johnson, if you remember, we were talking about getting him in line. And one thing that kind of stood out to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but you said, look, Griff, I'm not trying to change what you're eating. I just want you to analyze what you are eating and then start there and then start adding in a protein shake with every meal. And then what you're going to find out is you'll eat less of 3 tacos from Taco Bell. You'll have enough protein. You might eat 1 or 2. Like you'll start, your diet will start adjusting itself in a sense by just adding in the protein powder with your diet, with your meals.
Sure.
So is that like an easy step somebody can do?
For sure. And again, was specific for Griffin, right? So he wanted to gain muscle, and he's a young kid, right? To us, at least, what's he, 20, 21?
Yeah, he's like 22.
So,
yeah.
To me, that's a kid that's less than half my age. So, but for someone like that, right, who I'm not gonna tell them, oh, really? You get up and you have Taco Bell, and then you order a pizza, and then now you got to get up and cook chicken breast,
right?
And, the old chicken breast and broccoli. It doesn't have to be that way, You don't have to eat like a bodybuilder, nor do bodybuilders really have to eat that way. Now that we know, it's about hitting those macros, and like you said, adding the protein to those meals. Like you said, you start eating less of the crap, and now you're getting more quality protein. Right. So yeah, it's a very easy way.
You'll start offsetting some of the bad calories, swapping them in for good, better protein driven, which are more bioavailable because it's not sitting in your gut. So you're not just swapping in 3 tacos with like a steak and chicken breast and yams or whatever. Right. Okay. And then, so in terms of, the SARMs stuff, because a lot of, young people as well as guys getting back into it, look to that too. What would be your recommendation for those 2 groups of people
that are interested in SARMs?
That are like, hey, I want to start off and I'm going to get back into working out, get my protein, Jim, but I want to start with SARMs.
Well, why would you? I mean,
like what would you say?
The first question I would say is, why do you want to start with SARMs? Because if you haven't trained in a while, you're gonna get results. You're gonna get results as long as you're doing a decent program and you're following a fairly decent diet. You're gonna see results, right?
Right.
You don't need SARMs. You don't even need creatine. to be honest with you, right? Again, that's what I'm saying. I would focus on protein.
Protein.
You know what I mean? Before you're even getting into, creatine, branched chain amino acids, beta alanine, supplement your protein so that you're getting enough and you're getting the right quality protein in your diet.
Not whey concentrate.
Precisely. Don't go for a cheap, That's the thing is when a lot of people look for value and trying to save money. And I understand, trust me, I understand supplements are expensive, but the last place you want to cut corners is on your nutrition. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that is where you want to make sure you're getting the quality protein. You're not getting lactose that's going to have you in the bathroom.
And you can actually do it
without. If you're going to the bathroom 10 times a day, you're not going to be gaining weight. Like if, if it's going right through you, think about that.
Right.
It's not going to help you,
Right.
So great that you got that jug of protein for $20 or whatever, but if you're on the can,
as a result,
it's going down the toilet. Your gains are literally going down the toilet. You know what I mean?
You're not wrong. And that's what Michael Norwood, our athlete, we talked about this morning. So I was a little late today because I was explaining that to him.
And it's I understand. Like people are very questionable about. Well, I've tried every protein powder before.
Yeah,
I haven't tried yours, Jim, but you can't tell me yours is that much better. Yes. Yeah, I actually am telling you that mine is better.
Right.
Because I make it myself and I make it for myself. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If you're, like I said, trying to save money on your supplements, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not going to get the results.
Right.
You might save money, but what's the purpose? You've saved money with gotten no results, right?
So to kind of wrap it up, I mean, ideally, if you're coming back in the gym or if you're just starting out and you're a young person looking to get going, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, step one is Google Dieting 101 Jim Stoppani. It will help you. It'll get you in line. It's a very short read. It even gives you meal plans here if you, as basic as it is. It's not a
very short read. It's only because of the exam. It's just example after
the example meal plans, but it also shows you how to actually eat and how to supplement your protein based on the times of day that you work out. That's what I like about that. And this is free. This is nothing. This is something that's just it's a result. It's a resource. It's a tool. And when you start here, that's when you'll start seeing like, wow, this guy maybe knows what he's talking about. Step two is to get a quality protein added into your diet, right? Yep. Don't necessarily go down the SARMs route just right away. And if you choose to at least understand the risks versus the rewards.
Exactly. Yes.
And then there's alternatives. But you wouldn't even recommend this for young guys, right? I mean, unless they have a testosterone deficiency.
Now again, the nice thing about this is an 18-year-old can take this.
Because it's just nutrients.
And it's not going to do anything negative.
To mess up their levels.
Positive, right? It's only going to balance out, give them a little more free testosterone, maybe a little more total testosterone, right?
It's not going to ruin them.
A female can, and females do take this product because they don't have testicles.
So it won't. Okay? So it won't increase their
by the
test
way,
levels?
Any female without testicles, as long as you're a female without testicles, and that's most of them,
right?
You can actually take this because again, the way it increases testosterone
is if you have them,
is by protecting the cells in the testicles. If you don't have the testicles, it's not going to do anything to your testosterone, to your performance. Your physique, yes. Ashwagandha has been shown to improve exercise performance.
For all people.
Yes, exactly. So in quercetin is a very...
Well, that's a hot one right now. People are actually taking just because all the, exactly. I'm not saying this is but look at quercetin and that's like the one ingredient people are asking for right now.
You're getting 250 milligrams...
Which is an effective dose.
Exactly. Twice a day is 500 milligrams, right? You take more too if you want.
Right.
But again, look at those ingredients.
Right. It's nutrients.
Nutrients.
Antioxidants.
Nutrients.
Well, look, I mean, I think, you and I, as we've always said, can just go on and on and I enjoy this so much, getting us back just to talking about some things, getting the consumers this information pulled from you, from the standpoint of somebody who I think, probably can, not to say others can't. But there's just so much information, guys. I almost want to recreate all these conversations you and I have had, because it has helped me in my life in terms of not just the business side, but as I mentioned, I'm a consumer too.
Of course.
This is my favorite product that we have. I cannot ask these guys. I mean, I got Alpha Gym stashed in the bathroom, no joke, like literally because I'm like, well, I'm always forgetting it. So I set them in places to be like, where am I? Because I'm always running around. So I'm like, oh God, I got to take my Alpha. Did I take my Alpha today? And it is the most important supplement that I personally take, aside from protein and the other products we have. But that's what I want to be able to do, is have these conversations, not just talk about like a 50-minute infomercial or anything like that, but it's about pulling the information that's rooted in how you formulated these things, the basics and understanding of the science and the ingredients and the research, but then also the use case of how it's going to help people achieve results. And I think this was yet another great episode that I feel really good about. And I think our consumers, anybody else who's listening, is probably going to get a lot from this one too.
I hope so.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely hope so.
I'll let you close out, Jim.
Yeah. Well, I'll close out by saying thank you guys for watching, and I hope the information was helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. All right. Until next time, Jim and I are going to be back many more times talking about many different things. So thank you all for the JYM LYFE podcast. Until next time.
See you guys soon.